Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Shabbos Daf Kuf Dalad, one Kuf Gimel on base. 2 lines from the bottom. The Gemara here is referring back to the Mishnah where Rabbi Yehuda taught us if one is engaged in writing a long word. He's writing Shim Ein. He begins with the Shin, the Mem, stops right there. That is sufficient. That is considered to be a full word. Shem, one of Noach's children, Shem Chaman Yefes. So the word Shem is considered to be a full word. Now, although we're speaking about different types of mems that are necessary, for the word Shem, we need a closed mem. That's the end of the word. As opposed to the mem which he had written in the process of writing the word Shimon, which was an open mem. So Shin and then came an open mem. So how can we apply the open mem for the word Shem, which requires a closed mem? The Gemara told us we actually found a brisa where we find that those are interchangeable. The brisa says we find a remez for nisach hamayim on sukkahs from the words v'niskeim nesacher k'mishpatam. So the last letter of the word v'niskeihem, which is a closed mem, it will be applied to the first letter of the word mayim, although mayim, the first letter needs an open mem. So apparently they're interchangeable. We can apply a closed mem. We could substitute a closed mem for an open mem. Says more here as well, in our Mishnah, we can substitute the closed for the open. So in the case where he needs to have a closed mem for the word shame, he can substitute it by using an open mem. Let's see inside. 2 lines from the bottom, at the end of the line, pasuach v'asay sasam kasher. From the fact that we see that an open mem, meaning the first letter of the word mayim, which needs to be an open mem, and he made it into a closed mem. He applied a closed mem for that, to substitute for that open mem. Kosher, it's valid, it's considered to be viable. Therefore, in our case as well, sasam nami, when it comes to a closed mem, sasam v'asay pasuach kosher, when he needs to have a closed mem for the word shame. So even if he made it into an open mem by using the open mem of the word Shimon, that too is considered to be a properly written word. Says Mar mi dummy. How are these two things comparable? How can you compare one to the other? Pasuach v'asay sasam. When he needs to have an open mem, instead he substituted it with a closed mem. For sure, that's good. Elui kamalli, because he improved on it, he upgraded it. Damar Rav Chizda, mem v'samach shebeluchos. The letter mem and the letter samach, which were carved into the luchos, the stone tablets, and Har Sinai, they were positioned, they were standing through a miracle, through a nes. Why? Because the inner portion of these letters were carved out circles and were unsupported, so they were suspended mid-air b'nes. So we see clearly that the closed mem was present, was featured on the luchos, as opposed to the open mem, which the Gemara is going to tell us was only introduced later on by the Nevi'im. So therefore the Gemara says, when a person substitutes an open mem by using a closed mem, he's upgraded, he's elevated its importance from an open to a closed mem, which has higher level of importance. It was found in the luchos, found by Matan Torah. So understand, certainly in that case, it is considered to be valid. Elo, says the Gemara, sasam v'asay pasuach, well, he needs a closed mem. For instance, in the case of the word shame, which needs a closed mem, v'asay pasuach, and made it into an open mem, he's degrading it, he's lowering its importance. In that case, you have no raya that would be kosher, that is considered to be properly written. Explains the Gemara. The Omar of Yirmiyah, V'itema, some say it was Reb Chibaba, Menatzvach, these 5 letters, which all have double letters, right? The mem has a closed one, an open one. The nun has a long one at the end of the word, and we have the bent over one meant to be used in the middle of the word, etc. The tzaddik, the pei, the chaf. So who presented these things to us? Who taught us these double letters? The ones that are meant to be in the middle of the words. Soifim Amru. It was actually the Nevi'im who called Soifim. They were visioners. They were people who could see past beyond the physical realm. So these are the prophets who introduced the double letters, the ones that were meant to use in the middle of the words. So the ones to be used at the end of the words we already knew beforehand, but they introduced the double ones, the ones meant to be used in the middle of the words. For instance, the open mem. So this is the kasha. How can we say that if one is meant to write a closed mem which has higher importance, and he downgrades it by using an open mem, it's considered to be a validly written letter? Says the Gemara, V'tizbra, can you say that? that it was actually the Nevi'im who introduced these letters. Doesn't it say Eila mitzvahs? These are the mitzvahs. This is the package deal. This is the Torah. Sheina Navi Rashai Lechadish Davar Me'ata. Going forward, the Navi can't introduce anymore. So it can't be that the Nevi'im were the ones who introduced these letters. Says Ella Me'ahava. Certainly, everything was there initially. We know about all the letters. Says the Gemara. However, they didn't know. We didn't know. They didn't know which one was meant to be positioned in the middle of a letter, of a word. Which one was meant to be positioned at the end of the word. And the Tzayfim came along, the Nevi'im came along, and they established which ones are meant to go where. So this answers our kasha. Certainly the open and the closed mem were both of equal importance. They were both given to us initially by Har Sinai, and therefore there's no problem changing one for the other. Says the Gemara Vakati, but still, it doesn't fit. Why? Eila mitzvahs. The pasuk says these are the mitzvahs. Sheina Navi Rashai Lechadish Davar Me'ata. Navi cannot introduce anything more. So even the proper arrangement of the oisis of these letters is considered to be an addition on the Torah. It can't be that would be something that we need the Nevi'im to establish. Ella, says the Gemara, certainly everything was given initially, all the letters and their positions and their locations. Ella shachacham. Simply they forgot about those double letters. They only knew about the letters which belonged at the end of the words, but they forgot all about those letters which belonged in the middle of the words, the open mem, the curved, the bent nun. They forgot about them. The chazru v'yistiv, and the Nevi'im came along, they reestablished them. So certainly, once again, everything was given by Har Sinai, but some of them were merely forgotten and needed to be reestablished by the Nevi'im. Continues the Gemara Gufa we just learned. Amar Rav Chisda, mem v'samach shebeluchos. The letters mem and samach, which were carved into the luchos, b'neis or yoyin, and they were standing by a nes. V'amar Rav Chisda, ksav shebeluchos. The ksav, the writing that was featured in the luchos, was engraved, carved through and through, from one side all the way to the other. Nikra mibefnim v'nikra b'chutz. It can be read on the inside, read on the outside, on the other side. Kigoyin nevuv buvan. This is an example. Let's say the word nevuv. So it reads from right to left. Nun veis vav veis. Now on the other side, it will be read just the opposite. So if you read from right to left, it's beis vav beis nun. The same thing with Rahav, which in reverse reads Vahar, or Sarah, Varas. Rashi says actually these weren't in the Luchos. It's merely just examples. Taisus asks, why did the Gemara choose these examples? Actually, Taisus says an interesting thing. Why did we call those double letters in the term of Menatzfach, which is a little bit out of order? Because the Chaf should be actually the one mentioned first. So why Menatzfach? Taisus says, Mishum de Menatzfach mashma min tzayfim. It stands for these two words, min tzayfim. It was derived from the tzayfim, from the Nevi'im. Continues the Gemara. Amri le Rabbanan le Reb Shimon Levi. They said as follows: Asu dar de idna lebe midrasha. Small children just came to the base medrash. And they've said things, such wonderful things that afilu b'mei Yeshua ben Nun lo itma kavasai. Even during the days of Yeshua ben Nun, these types of things were not learnt. So the Mashal explains what is the specific reference to the days of Yeshua ben Nun. He says because we just learned that these letters were forgotten. He says the Gemara brings that many things were forgotten during the days of mourning for Moshe Rabbeinu. So they forgot many of these letters. And here the small young school children came and expounded on all the alphabets. They were very aware and knowledgeable about the secrets, about the meanings of all the alphabets. So this is regarded as something which was even surpassed the days of Yeshua ben Nun. Continues the Gemara. Alphabets, the Gemara is going to go through all the alphabets in various arrangements and sequences. Rashi says they're actually all found in Sefer Yetzirah. So these are secrets. Many of these things are secrets that are alluded to, but the Gemara is going to go through in a pashut, in a simple manner, the basic meaning of the aleph base, and actually we're going to have different sequences of the aleph base and explain it accordingly. So we're going to start with the ordinary sequence, aleph base in order. Says the Gemara, aleph base means aleph bina, learn Torah. Aleph means learn, bina is understanding, learn Torah. Gimel dalis is gemoil dalim. Bestow goodness on the needy. My timer, says the Gemara, pshuta, carried the gimel l'gabe dalas. Why? Is the foot of the gimel, it's extending towards the dalas. My time of pshuta carried the gimel. Why is the leg of the gimel extended l'gabe dalas towards the dalas? The leg of the bottom leg of the gimel, left leg, it sticks out, extends. Shekain darka shel gam chasadim lo tzachar dalim. We just learned that gimel dalas stands for gemoil dalim, grant, bestow goodness on the needy, on the poor people. So the remez here is his leg is extending, meaning run after him. Go seek the needy to bestow goodness upon them. So this is the derech of the Goyim Chasadim to do this, to run after the dalim. Oh, my time of pshuta carried the dalas. Legame gimel. Why do we find that the leg, the carried the dalas, is pshuta, is facing, is extended legabe gimel towards the gimel? So the Gemara says the limtzile nafshe. It's coming to teach us a lesson that this dalas. This dalah denotes the dal, the needy, who's accepting the chesed, the tzedakah from the goimel dalim. Says the Gemara, the lesson is the limtzilei nafshe. He's meant to make himself available for the balabayis, for the wealthy man. So this is his way of helping the balabayis. Mashal says he doesn't have money to give the balabayis, but he can do chesed in this manner, making it easier for him, make himself available, so that the balabayis doesn't have to burden himself to run after him. So that's why the leg of the gimel, of the dalad, is extended back towards the gimel. Continues the Gemara, oh my time, mahader ape the dalas, mi gimel. Why is the ape, the face, the front of the dalas, who is the poor man, why is it facing away from the gimel? The litin le bitzina. It's coming to teach us that the one who bestows the goodness, the chesed, the tzedakah, should grant it to the needy person bitzina, discreetly, so that he's not shamed and embarrassed from him. Continues the Gemara, Heiva, zeh shmei shaglesh baruch hu. This is one of the names of Hashem. Zayin ches tesyud chaf lamed. This is a Rashi Tevis, which indicates the following: V'mata isikein. If you follow in this manner, as we said earlier, you go ahead and you do tzedakah, you do chesed with the poor man, with the needy. If you follow in this manner, HaKadosh Baruch Hu zona ischa. This is the Zayin Hashem, sustains you, He feeds you. The ches is v'chan ischa. He grants you kindness. He grants you favor. Umeitav l'cha, this is the test. He bestows goodness to you. V'nois l'cha yerusha, this is yud. He grants you, gives you inheritance. Then we have the kaf and the lamed. V'koisho l'cha keser l'il haba. So the kaf is the keser, the crown which Hashem will tie to you l'il haba. This is the lamed in the world to come. Proceeds the Gemara. We have the two mems, mem psucha, the open mem stuma, the closed mem, which is a remez mamar pesuach. Mamar Sasam. There are some portions of Torah which are open, meant to be expounded upon and learned and taught in public. Then there's Mamar Sasam, that the secrets of Torah meant to be held quiet, held in secret, and not to be revealed to all. As she says, for instance, the Maasim Merkava, secrets of Torah. Proceeds the Gemara, Nun, we have the Nun Kfufa, the bent Nun, Nun Pshuta, the erect Nun. This is coming to teach us Neman Kofaf, Neman Pashat. Neman is a faithful person. So a righteous person, a faithful person. Kafaf, he's meant to be humble, present himself with humility. Neman pashat. Eventually, in El Haba, Hashem will make him erect, stand with full confidence. Samach ayin, smoich aniyim, support the needy. Lishnachrin, another version, simonim ase b'Torah. Make signs, simonim, for the Torah, v'knei oisa, and acquire in this manner, as we find in the Gemara many times. There were simanim, a short form of the Gemara, of the various subjects being learned. So this is a way to learn properly, to remember properly. Pei, we have the pei kfufa, the bent pei pshuta, the open, the erect pei. Pe pasuach pesasam, an open mouth, a closed mouth. Rashi explains that at times a person opens his mouth, teaches Torah, when there's nobody else available, when there's nobody greater than him teaching Torah, you meant to go ahead and teach. Spread Torah. Pes sasam. On occasion, you meant to keep your mouth closed. When there's somebody greater than you, act with humility, with hanava. Continues the Gemara, Tzadi kfufa, but Tzadi pshuta. Apparently the Gemara used to call it was called Tzadi, not Tzadik, as some people call it today. So Tzadi kfufa, a bent Tzadi, with Tzadi pshuta, an open Tzadi, is a remes for tzaddik kafif, a righteous man, a tzaddik, who is bent, again the concept of anava, humility, Tzaddik Pashat, an erect tzaddik, L'olam haba, Hashem will put him in position upright with full confidence, L'olam haba. Says Gemara, well, why the repetition? We just had it. Hainu Neman Kaf Neman Pasha. This seems to be simply a repetition of the earlier discussion of the Neman who is bent, who is erect. Indeed, the Kosav, the Torah, the Pasuk here is adding more and more humility upon his humility. Mikan, we learn from here, Shnitna Torah b'Modeh Dreish. The Torah is given with trembling of the head, meaning with a high dose, extraordinary level, measure of anav and humility. That is a proper way to acquire Torah. Continues the Gemara, Kuf, Kadosh, somebody holy. Reish is a Rasha. My time a mahadar api the kuf mi reish. Why do we find that the face of the kuf is turning away from the reish? So this is a euphemism, meaning that the reish, the back of the reish, is towards the kuf. So the kuf is not exposed to the front of the face of the reish. Why is that? Because we said that the kuf is kaddish and the reish is rasha. I cannot gaze at the face of the rasha. Therefore, they're in different directions. My time of mahadra tagi the kuf l'gav. But why do we find that the stroke, the tag on top of the kuf, is actually leaning towards the reish? If this rasha turns back, if he does tshuva, I will tie on him a crown just as I have. So that's the remez here. The crown is awaiting the rasha who turns back and does tshuva. Umay time carry the kuf tluya. Why do we find that the left leg of the kuf is actually hanging midair? It's not attached to its to the top, to the roof. It says more the hadar bei la'ayil. The hadar, because if the rasha turns back, does tshuva bei la'ayil, he should go back through this opening of the kuf. So there's a special opening, a special entrance to allow the rasha back in. Says more, why do you need a separate entrance? Why can't you simply go through the large opening, the large entrance on the bottom of the kuf? So we already have one entrance. Says, well, you know why? Mesayel Rish Lakish. This supports Rish Lakish. What does the pasuk mean? If these are people are trying to be cynics, these are cynics, hu yolitz, he will go along with them, with their cynicism, meaning that he will allow them to proceed. To those who choose to be humble, yitin chen, he'll grant them chen, favor. So what does this mean? If a person is looking to become tamei poischenloi from Shemayim, from heaven, they open it up for him, meaning they don't stop him. Every person has the bechira to do as he wishes. So that's the pshat imaletzim oyolis. Hashem doesn't chas v'shalom encourage cynicism, but he allows it. But if a person is seeking to purify himself, he receives heavenly assistance. So the Gemara in Menachos actually adds a little bit and says that, therefore, since he needs that special assistance, special Shavta Shmaya, therefore he needs a special entrance way. He can't go back through that ordinary way. He needs that special Shavta Shmaya, and that is indicated in this special opening that Hashem opens for him on the left side, on the top of the kuf, so he can go back in there. And that is an indication of that special Shavta Shmaya, special heavenly assistance that he receives. So about tshuva, a person who's doing tshuva, he can't go back to his old ways. He needs to renew himself. He needs to start fresh. Go through a new opening, new entranceway, start life anew. And that is indicated in this new opening that was opened for him on the left side of the kuf. Continues the Gemara. Shin, so we have two more letters, Shin and Taf. Shin is sheker, falsehood. Taf is emes. The last letter is word emes. Says the Gemara, we find something interesting. My time is sheker mekaver mili. We find that the letters which comprise the word sheker are close to each other. The shin, then the kuf, then the reish and the shin. They're very close in proximity to each other. Emes, however, in contrast to the word emes, merachim mili, the letters of the word emes are very far apart. The aleph is all at the beginning of the aleph base, the saf all at the end, and the mem in the middle. Says, well, you know why? Shikr shchiach. Falsehood is common. It's close at hand, so they're situated right next to each other. Kushta, but truth, lo shchiach, it's something uncommon. It's not close by, it's far, and therefore they're dispersed all throughout the aleph base. Says the Gemara, umay taima Shikra achada karikoi. Why does sheker, the word sheker, stand on one foot? So the shin is standing on its bottom point. It's a pointy bottom, so it's like 1 foot. The kuf is standing on the long leg, it's only one leg, and the reish on its single leg. So why is shikra achada karikoi? It's standing on merely on one leg. The emes, in contrast to the word emes, milbel levune, it's standing firmly positioned, like a brick, which is positioned. So the emes, the word emes, we have the aleph, which has the two legs, which are fully supporting the letter aleph. We have the mem, which is fully supported, very stable by its flat bottom, and the saf, which has those two legs holding it up. Says the Gemara, you know why? Kushta koi, emes, truth stands, it endures. Shikr lekoi, falsehood doesn't sustain. It's not enduring. Eventually, it'll be exposed. So it's flimsy. It's like standing on 1 foot. It doesn't really have endurance. Continues the Gemara with different versions of the sequence of the aleph base, and the Gemara will expound on them. We have atbash, so aleph taf, that's the first and last letter of the aleph base. Beis shin is the second and the second to the last. So this is going to be the sequence that the Gemara is going to expound on. Atbash stands for the following: Oisi sav. Me, Hashem is saying, he considered me to be repulsive. Oisi sav, the aleph of the sav is oisi sav. As aveloi, will I desire him? And Beis shin is bi loy choshak. Me he didn't covet. Shmi yachalav, will my name rest on him? So the Beis and the shin is bi loy choshak, bi, and then the shin is shmi yachalav. Gimel reish, gufay timay, his body he was metame arachim, all of the reishes, will I have rachmanas on him? Dak is dal and kuf, dal soisai nal, he closed my doors. Karna of loy gadeh, the kuf is his pride, will I not cut down? Ad kan midas rishoim. Up until here we're speaking about the lot of the rishoim, the wicked people. Aval midas tzadikim. But the lot, the portion of tzadikim is different. We expound on these same letters differently. Atbash. Imato boish. So at means if you, at. Bash means boish, if you are embarrassed to do averis. Gar dak. So Gimel Reish, that's the third letter of the aleph. Reish is the third to the last letter. Dak is the fourth letter of the aleph. Kuf is the fourth to the last. So this is another sequence. So Gar dak, if you are embarrassed of doing averis, Gar dak. If you do this, Goyer beduk, you will live beduk in the heavenly spheres. Hatz vaf. Chatzitza have benoch laf. So hatz means a chatzitza, partition, a barrier will be erected between you and the afi, the anger, the retribution. So that's hatz and vaf. Za chas tan stands as follows: ve'enatam izdadea min achasatan, and you have nothing to fear, nothing to tremble from the satan. So that za means zazeya, and chas tan is from the satan. Continues the Gemara. What about Yam and Kol? Omar Sar shall Gehenim Tagish Baruch. The master of Gehenim told Hashem, Ribbon Shalom, Liyam Kol, send everybody to the Yam. So Rashi says Gehenim is symbolized with the Yam because the Yam is where all the water eventually leads to. And the Gehenim is a place where he says that most people, most go to Gehenim. So this is termed, Gehenim is called Yam, is referenced with Yam. So Gehenim, Sarsha Gehenim Tzedakadosh Baruch Hu, let everybody go to the Yam, even Klal Yisrael. Amakadosh Baruch Hu, no. Achaz batagif, anichos aleim. I have mercy on them. To be gift because they rejected. Batagif, they rejected gift, which means nus. So achas means anichas aleim, bata, they rejected gifts, nus. They were not involved in the averis. Therefore, they don't belong in your Gehenim. Dakats, that stands for the following words: dakim heim, they are pure, kenim heim, they are upright, tzadikim heim. Halak, that stands for ein lecha chelik b'hem, you have no portion of them, you have no control of them. Umarzan shes stands for the following: Omar Gehenim lefanov. Gehenim told Hashem, Ribono shel olam, Mari, my master. So Mar is Mari, Zani is Zuneni. Feed me, sustain me with Zari shel Sheis. So Mars and Sheis means, Mari, my master, feed me. with the children of Shes. So Shes was the third son of Adam. He was the forefather of Noach, the forefather of all of humanity, including Klal Yisrael. Feed me, all of Klal Yisrael, the Goyim and the Yidden. Amar lei, so Hashem responded to him, Al bam gan das. So what he said was like this: you will not have a chelik in them. Al bam is you will not have a chelik in them in Klal Yisrael. I have no control over Yisrael. Gan das, leichem alichem. Where will I lead them to? Legan hadas, to the garden of myrtle of Hadassah, which is Gan Eden. Havaf. This stands for the following: I'm faint from hunger. You need to feed me with. I need customers for Gehenna. So Havaf stands for that. Hineni oyef barav. And Hashem responds, Zatz chak. Halolu zarei shel Yitzchak. So the Zatz chak means zarei shel Yitzchak. These are the children of Yitzchak. You can't have control on them. Tar yashkat. What does this mean? Tar. Wait a little bit. Yeshli kitesh lev have groups and groups of goyim shani noislecha that I will give to you to sustain you, to sustain your Gehenna. Let's take a look at perhaps the Rashi inside, going back all the way to the beginning of this portion of the Gemara of the Aleph Beis. So it begins 24 lines from the top. Aleph Bina, L'moiter learned her. My time a Pashat carried the Gimel. L'gabi Dalas. Why is the leg of the Gimel is extended towards the Dalas L'gabi base and not back towards the base? And the Gemara said because the Goimel down, the one who bestows goodness, is meant to run after the needy. My time in Pashat carried the Dalas L'gabi Gimel. Why is the leg of the Dalas extended towards the Gimel V'lo L'gabi Hey and not forward towards the Hey Shemeshucha? Ktsas L'gabi Gimel is a bit extended, pulled towards the Gimel. The Limtzilei Onei Nafshi, so the needy person should make himself available. V'lo Yitzchenu Ba'al Bayis should not burden the Ba'al Bayis, Lo Yitzrachav to have to run after him. Hey Vav, that is one of the names of Hashem. K'moy Ani Vahu Shemas Hem U'Meitav L'cha. So a person conducts himself in this manner. Hashem is Meitav L'cha, gives goodness to you. Hainu Tes Yerusha, gives you inheritance. Hainu Yud Keser, he ties a crown. Hainu Kaf Loyal Haba, that is denoted in the letter Lamed. Mamar Pasuach Mamar Sasam. So the open and closed mem are symbolizing an open portion, open words, and a closed words. Yesh Dvarim, there's a portion that's meant to stay open, meant to stay closed. So Mamar Pasuach is Yesh Dvarim Shenitam Rishus L'Darsham. This is an open portion of Torah which is meant to be taught, meant to be learned in public. However, there's a Mamar Sasam, a closed portion, which Hashem wants us to keep it secret. We have the two nuns, the bent nun and the extended nun, the straight nun, Nem and Kofov. Adam Kasher, a righteous person, a faithful person, certainly is Kofov Anav, meant to be bent and Anav and humble. V'soifili is Pashat v'Zakav Abba. Eventually, Abba is going to be Kofov and Zakav, erect, standing erect like Abba. From the Samach Ayin we learn Simonim Asei B'Torah. Says Rashi, Simonim shall say the Shmois, the Tana of Moira, of different teachings from a Tana Amora Begir slash the Shakach Achas Mem Kugelish B'Shas that we find in Shas, many Simonim. So we're meant to make Simonim signs and remazim to remember the various halachas. We have the two pays, the open and the closed. Pepa Suach. You're meant to teach Torah, open your mouth and teach. B'Shasa Mechansim Pazer. When others are keeping to themselves, they're holding the Torah, they're not spreading it. You go ahead, Pazer, you spread. Pesosim. When is one to keep his mouth quiet? B'shasam efazrim kanes. When the other ones are spreading Torah, you kanes, you hold within. If there's somebody greater than you, then you conduct yourself with humility, with anava, and withhold from teaching. The Torah is given with trembling of the head, bereses v'anav yisera, with trembling and extraordinary measure of anova. My time mahad the apid the kuf reish. Why is the face of the kuf facing away from the reish? Listen to Ma'alyu, it's a euphemism. Sha'choyrev shel reish legabi hakuf. It means to say that the back of the reish is actually facing the kuf. Hashem doesn't want to look at the face of the Rosh. Taga the kuf, this is the stroke on top of the kuf, kamin zayin, like a zayin she'osim b'seifa shel gag kuf, that they make at the end of the gag, of the top portion of the kuf, which is facing towards the reish. The Gemara told us because if the Rasha does tshuva, he will earn a keser. Carried the kuf talia. The left leg of the kuf is hanging. Shenan dbekesim gaga. It's not stuck to the roof, because that's the place, at the entryway for the Baal Tshuva. Leil bahach. Says the Gemara, why does he need to have a special entranceway? Why can he simply go through the entranceway on the bottom? Yaakov tachas ragla kuf. V'ikonis pesach sheyimin. Let him go through the right entranceway. Mesayin oisoi. If he does tshuva, he gets special siyata shmai, heavenly assistance. Umachinen le pesach. They prepare for him a special opening that symbolizes that additional measure of siyata d'shmai that he receives when he wants to do tshuva. Hu yolitz me'atzmai yolitz. When a person wants to be cynical, hu yolitz, meaning that Hashem allows him to do it on his own. Hu yolitz me'atzmai yolitz. Lo yisayu. They won't help him. They won't give him assistance, nor will they stop him. But if he wants to be humble, he's pulled to good things. Hashem will give him chen yisayim and hashemayim. From heaven they will give him special assistance. Now, why are the letters which comprise the word sheker close to each other? Mekar milu Yosef kroivos. The letters are in close proximity. Shloshtan kroivos consider shlafa besa. In the sequence of alphabets, they're close to each other. They're in order. We have the kuf and the resh and the shin, and emes amarachim bile. Zu betchilas alphabets. One is in the beginning. V'zu beemtza. The mem is in the middle. V'zu b'seif. The saf is at the end. And then the Gemara told us, why is he sheker standing merely on one foot? Achad kara kol ois v'ois shabai, every single of its letter. Oy medes al reglecha, standing on one foot. Whereas emes mal b'levuni. Mushgavan tachtei ois yoseh k'min leveina. Its letters are firm, are stable, standing like a brick. The aleph harish labeis raglayim. Umoshavatoy. The aleph has two legs and it stands well. V'regla sheni rochav. And the second foot of the aleph, left foot is wide. It allows it to stand firmly. The same thing regarding the mem and the saf. Es avaloi. This is the next sequence of the alphabet is at bash, which means oisi sav. At is oisi sav. Es avaloi. Will I desire him? Bitmia is a question mark. V'chein kulam. Going through the next few descriptions in the Gemara, if he doesn't covet me, oisi biloi chashak shmi yachalov, will I name rest on him? Okay, ad kamidas rishayim kino nidr sheitz rishayim. This aspect, this angle is applicable to rishayim. However, when it comes to tzaddikim, we have a different form of drasha. Im at boish milachtoi, if you are embarrassed from sinning, gor dak. It means gur beduk. Nafshecha, your soul takes rura taras kisei v'duk shemaim. You will be placed in the heavenly realm, heavenly abode. This will be your place. Yam koil. So the Sarah of Gehenim tells Hashem, Yam koil. Gehenim kori yam. Kori yam koil. Why? Most go there. Amar Sasha Gehenim liyam shali titenes koloilam. To the my yam tenes koloilam. Provide, give everybody, bring everybody into the yam. I feel Yisrael. Hashem says no. Amalei achaz bata gif. This is another version of the sequence. Explains Rashi, Alpha Basi Eitzel Atbash V'Kulon Sturis B'Sev. So this is like Atbash. So Atbash was a sequence which worked with the first and last letter, then the second to the last, etc. So this Achaz Bata Gif is a similar concept, a different type of sequence. V'Kulon Sturis B'Sev Yitzir. They're all set up in Sefer Yitzir. So Hashem responds by saying, Ani achas aleim, I will have mercy on them al shabbat begif, because they rejected gif, which means b'niof and znus. Dakatz is a Rosh Tevis nutrikon. Dakim, they are pure kanim, upright tzadikim. Ein lecha gehenim chelik v'hem Yisrael. You have no part in them. Umarz and shas v'omer sasha gehenim. Gehenim, the sasha gehenim tells Hashem, Zuneini mizar shel sheis. Umarz and sheis, my master, feed me with the children of sheis. Kol ha'oivdei kacham v'Yisrael. Hashem says no. Amarlei. Hashem says al bam Album, you will not have a part in them. Gan das. I will take them to Gan Eden, Gan Hadas, Gan Eden. Ha, Vaf. Gehenim complains, he says, Hineni of Berav, I'm faint from hunger, I need customers. Zatz Chak. Hashem says, these are Harlolu Zar Shel Yitzchakim. I will not grant them to you. Tar Yeshkat Kshmorli. Wait for me. Vahamtein Yeshli Kites Acheres. I have other groups of Goyim to give to you. Continues the Mishnah. HaKoisev Shtei Oisios Behelam Echad Chayiv. We're going back to the details regarding the Malach of Koisev. If one writes two Oisios, two letters, in one period of unawareness, he brings a Chatas. Kosav B'Dyoy, if he wrote those letters using Dyoy black ink, Besam, yellow pigment made from a root of a grass, Besikra, red pigment, Bekoimois, using material made from gum arabic from a tree, Ubekankantam, this is copper sulfate, Ubechol Davar Shoroshim, anything that has the ability to mark. The Rambam explains, when we say Roshim, it means a lasting and enduring mark. Continues the Mishnah, Al Shnei Kois Zavius, if he writes two letters on two walls, but right at the corner where the walls meet, Val Shnei Levachi Pinkas, or on two separate tablets of a ledger, Vehei Negen Zemze, but they're close enough that they can be read one with the other, Chayav, because they're mitzvah for each other. So all these types of inks and pigments, which are enduring and lasting, or in the cases here where he writes these two letters, which can be mitzvah, which can be read with each other, he is chayiv. Continues the Mishnah. Sorry, chayiv. If one writes on his flesh, he's chayiv. And the first will point out, although the letters will disappear sooner or later through the heat and the moisture of the person's flesh, nevertheless, there's nothing wrong with the actual form of writing, with the material that he used, with the ink that he used. So it's similar to somebody writing something and another person coming along and erasing that. Therefore, it's still considered the derech siva, and he's chayiv. Continues the Mishnah, Mesarat Absari. If one engraves letters on his flesh, Reb Lezer Mechayiv Chatas. Reb Lezer is chayiv. It's considered to be derech siva. V'chachavim Paitrim. They say, no, this is not derech siva. Continues the Mishnah, Kosav Mashkin. If he wrote using dark fruit juice, like a berry juice, b'mei peros, or other types of fruit juice, b'avak drachim, if he used mud, b'avak hasoifrim, the dust, the remnants inside the inkwell, any material that's not lasting and enduring, potter. What if he wrote using the back of his hand, b'raglei, his foot, b'fiv, using his mouth, b'apika, using his elbow? This is not considered to be the ordinary manner of writing. Continues the Mishnah, Kosav ois achas samach ksav. Let's say there was already a letter written, and he went and he added another letter to it. So he didn't actually write two letters, but he added a letter to a pre-existing letter. Or uksav al gabi ksav. He wrote on top of pre-existing letters. So he added another layer of ink. Or niskav lichtav ches. He intended on writing a ches. Now the form of a ches in ksav ashuris, which you write the Sefer Torah, it is comprised of two zayin letters with a little roof that connects the two zayins. So this fellow intended on writing a ches, but he left out the roof because of Beis Zayin, and it resulted in him having written two zayins, two letters. But this wasn't his purpose. His intention was to write a ches. Another example, achas baretz, achas bekoyer. He wrote one letter down on the floor, achas, and another one up on the beam, on the ceiling. Or kosav al beis koisle abayis, or he wrote two letters on two opposite walls. Or al shnei dape pinkas, on two columns of the ledger. He wrote them far apart, that they're not read with each other. In all these cases, he's potter. What about kosav ois achas netrikan? He writes one letter. So kosav ois achas netrikan, he wrote one letter with an otrikan, in a way which indicates, with an apostrophe. So it indicates that it represents an entire word. Rabbi Yehuda Meser Mechayev, he says, this is equated with a word. They say, no, he's potter because in actuality, he didn't write a word. He only wrote one letter, so he's potter. Continues the Gemara. We have a list of various materials, and the Gemara is going to explain. Dioy, that's diusa, the black ink. Sam is sama, that yellow pigment. Sikra, what is that? Amarava rachana sikra shema. It's called sikra, that's the red pigment. What is kumos? That is kuma. That's made from the the gum of the tree. Kankantim, what is that? Amar Rabba Bachana or Shmuel, Charta de Ushpechi. That's the copper sulfate used by the Ushpechi, those who they use it to blacken the leather. The shoemakers use it. So Ushpechi is the referring to the shoemakers who blacken their leather using this black material. Continues the Gemara. The Mishnah added another statement. He uses any of these materials or anything that has the ability to mark. Lasuye mai. What is the Mishnah coming to include? Lasuye coming to include hadatani Rab Chananya. This, which is included in the Brisa of Rab Chananya. Kosvai, referring to a get. A divorce bill needs to be written also in a manner which is lasting and enduring. So if he wrote the get with mei tarya, using the juice of this tarya fruit, or using va'afatza, using the galnut juice, kosher, because these are also considered to be lasting and enduring. Taner B'chia, we have another couple of items. Kosvei be'ever, he wrote the get using lead, b'shachar, charcoal, b'shichar, that copper sulfate, kosher, because these as well are considered to be lasting and enduring. Continues the Gemara, Masarat Absar, if one engraves on his flesh. Reb Lezer says, this is considered to be derech siva nischai. Tani will enter the Brisa. Omar lehen, Reb Lezer chacham. V'haloi ben Sitada, there was this fellow, Ben Sitada, hoitzik shafim Mitzrayim. He took out this information of the kish of the sorcery from Mitzrayim. How did he do it? B'srita shabsarei, to the engraving on his flesh. So you see, this is something common. Amalai, the Chacham responded, Shaita, he was a deranged fellow. We can't bring a raya from deranged people. Let's take a look at the Rashi inside here. This is 22 lines from the bottom, beginning with the words Hoitzik Shafim. So why did he have to bring the Kshafim out, export the Kshafim in this manner, on his skin? Says Rashi, he couldn't bring it out written, because those professional sorcerers, they would check, they would inspect all the passengers. They shouldn't export the kshafim, this information. To teach them to inhabitants of other countries. They wanted to keep it in-house. So they would prevent people from exporting it. So he was compelled to actually engrave it on his skin, to smuggle it out. Says the Chachamim, it wasn't actually a shaita, but this was an act of shtus. It was abnormality. Last is to do what ordinary people don't do. He actually committed himself to such a great extent for this matter to smuggle out this information. It was so dear and important to him. But this is not something which is ordinarily done. Therefore, engraving on one's flesh is not considered to be derech siva. Now, who was this fellow Ben Sitada? So Tosfos and Chagiga actually says this was Yeshu, the founder of Christianity. Now actually there's a piece in the Gemara here that was censored by the censors in earlier versions. The later versions of the Gemara actually have this piece. I have it on my side of my Gemara here. That the Gemara actually explains this person's family situation, his family tree, so to speak. This fellow, Ben Sitada, the Gemara says is actually his father's name was not Sitada. He was really Pen Pandira. The name of his father was Pandira, who did znus with his mother. So, meaning the mother of Ben Sitada, her name was Miriam, a Jewish woman. Miriam Megadla Nashaya, she used to braid the hair of women. So her name was Miriam, Mary, the mother of Yeshu. Her husband's actual name was Papas ben Yehuda. And the actual father here was Pandira, who did znus with this woman. And the result was this fellow Ben Sitada, who was Yeshu, the founder of Christianity. Now, why is he called Ben Sitada, not Ben Padira? Because Sitada actually stands for, the Gemara says, Sotis Domi Bala. This woman, Miriam, strayed from her husband. She did nus with Pandira. Now, it's interesting that the Gemara in Gittin actually tells us that Papas ben Yehuda, the husband of Miriam, imposed severe restrictions on her. He locked her in the home, didn't allow her to engage and socialize with people. He was afraid that she'd go speak to men. So he imposed extreme restrictions on her. And Rashi tells us there that the Gemara says that this is not something meant to be done. Rashi says this can result in the woman feeling so restricted, encroached upon, that she'll burst out, she'll resort to doing things which are not to be done, to do znus. And indeed, this is what happened with Miriam, that she was mezana with Pandira. Now, what was the story with Yeshu? How did he stray from the path? So the Gemara Saita actually tells us that he was a Talmud of the Tana, Rabbi Shua ben Prachya. So actually on a trip, and they spent time in some inn. And this fellow, this Talmud, he remarked about the hostess to his Rebbe. He said her eyes are around. It's something it's not common. Something he made an unfavorable comment regarding the host, and Rishu Prachia was taken aback by this comment. He says, "This is what you're involved in. You're focusing. You're focusing, concentrating on ish," and he rejected him completely. He was doichem b'shtei yadayim, the Gemara says, and as a result of that severe rejection, he strayed. He left the path, and he needed to build himself up, and he established a new religion, Christianity, and he caused so much destruction to the world. So the Gemara tells us, actually, we went to learn a lesson, that one is not meant to reject this Talmud to such a degree. And we learn from that Gemara in Gittin as well, that imposing such severe restrictions on one's family can result in backfiring and such grave consequences of znus, and resulting in this fellow being born and creating so much destruction, bringing so much havoc and destruction to the world. So this fellow Yeshu, the founder of Christianity, was Moisei Nefesh, as we see on Kirshav, on matters of Tumah, and he graved it on his skin, and the Chacham responded, "We can't make a raya from him. Ein mivin raya min hashetim." Continues the Gemara. Kosav ois achas samach ksav. If he wrote one letter right next to a pre-existing letter, the Mishnah tells us it doesn't count. He's potter. It says, "Man Tana." Who's the Tana? Meaning, whose opinion does the Mishnah represent? Amar Rav bar Hafuna, the loiker Belezer. Apparently, it's not following according to the Shita of Belezer, who tells us in the upcoming parak here that the Rav Belezer, because otherwise, if it would be found Rav Belezer, Ha'amar the Rav Belezer tell us achas hal org chayav, that if one adds one thread of weaving to a pre-existing weave, he's chayav. Although the minimum share generally is two threads, but if the material is in the middle of being woven, so if he adds one, it's mitzdaref to the pre-existing material and has chashivas in his chayiv. Here as well, Reb Lezer will maintain, if he adds a letter to a pre-existing letter, that is considered to be chashiv enough and his chayiv. The Mishnah here apparently disputes that and requires two letters in all circumstances. Continues the Gemara, ksav al gabi ksav. If he writes above a pre-written letter, his potter, adding a layer, is not reckoned with. Mantana, says the Gemara once again, whose shita does the Mishnah represent? It's not in accordance with Rabbi Yehuda. The Sanya is willing to the price. If one was writing and say a Sefer Torah, it was up to the Shem Hashem, which is a Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey, which is meant to be written with the proper preparation, machshava. Now he was holding out that word, and it left his mind. He inadvertently thought that he was meant to write Yehuda. He started writing Yehuda, V'tah, and he mistakenly left out the Dalet. He left out the Dalet. So now he has the Yehuda without the Dalet, which is the perfect Shem Hashem. But it wasn't written with the proper Kavanah. So what is he meant to do? Says Rabbi Yehuda, Marvar alav kulmus makache. Very simple. He takes his kulmus, his quill, and goes over it, applies another layer of ink with the proper Kavanah. By doing so, he's Makadish, the Shem Hashem, Div Rabbi Yehuda. So adding in a layer is considered to be a proper ksiva. No. This name of Hashem is not written in the preferred manner, it's invalid. So according to the Chacham, adding in a layer is insignificant and not reckoned with, in accordance with our Mishnah. Continues the Gemara. Tana, we learned to the Bryce. Kosav ois achas, v'shlima l'sefer. So he had a sefer, one of the 24 Torah Miksuvim, and it was missing a letter. And he wrote one letter, and by doing so he completed the sefer. Or arag chut echot, he wove one chut, v'shlima l'beged, and by doing so he completed the garment. It was missing one chut, and he completed it by adding this one thread. Chayav. Says the Gemara, Mantana, whose opinion does this reflect? Amar Rav Hafuna Rabbi Lezer. This is our Rabbi Lezer, the Amar achas al arag chayav. He adds another layer to the pre-existing weave is chayav. Here as well, since he's adding, it's considered to be chashav, it's mitzvah in his chayiv. Even though he didn't write two letters, he didn't weave two threads. Rav Ashi Amar, afilu teimar rabbanon, even you're going to say that this brisa is in accordance with the Chacham, who require two letters and two threads being woven into a pre-existing weave. This case is different. Lahashlam shani. In the case where he completes the sefer by adding that letter, he completes the garment by adding that thread, that has special significance, special chashivas, and is reckoned with as a full malach. Omar b'ami, kosab ois achas v'tveria. If he writes one letter in the city of Tveria, v'achas v'tzipori, and another letter in the town of Tzipori. So they're far apart in two different locations. Nevertheless, he's chayiv. We combine them. Why? It's a proper writing. It's lacking kreva to bring them together. So therefore, it's considered to be like writing two oisiyas and is chayiv. But haven't we learned? If one writes two letters on two opposite walls, on two columns of the ledger, and they're not read one with the other, they're too far apart, pater. So what is the difference? Why in this case, when he writes two letters on in two different cities, he's chayiv? Says it's more very simple. Hasam, mechusar masa de kreva. In the case of the Mishnah, it's lacking an action to bring them together. Meaning, if he writes on the two opposite walls, he needs to take them out of the walls and combine them. Or on the two columns of the ledger, he needs to cut out the intervening parchment in order to bring them together. So there's a maisa kreva that's missing. It's lacking an action. It's not complete. Hach, in this case, loy mechusar masa de kreva. We're not lacking an action of kreva because, Rashi explains, for instance, he wrote a letter at the edge of one sheet of paper in Tveria. He did the same in Tzipor, so that the edge of the paper, theoretically, they can be read one with the other. They're merely found in different locations. So you need to bring them together. But there's no chisarn, there's no lacking of a masa kreva. He doesn't need to alter the format of what was written. It was written properly. He just needs to bring them together. Therefore, they're considered to be a masa ksiva. Tana we learned in the Brisa, higia is achas. If one corrects, he edits even one letter, chayav. Says, how could that be? Hashta kosav ois achas pater. Now that we know that even if he fully writes a letter, he's pater. Higia is achas chayav. How can you say that if he merely edits, he fixes one letter, he's chayav? Omer of Sheshes, Hochamai Skin was speaking about Kigoin Shenotlei. Legag shel ches. He had a ches, which is comprised of two zayins. He removed the gag, the roof of the ches, and he formed them into two zayins. So that's the pshat. In Higia Isachas, he corrected, he edited, he removed the roof of the ches and formed two letters. Therefore, he's chayiv. Rav Amar was speaking about Kigoin Shenotlei Letageh shel dalas. So he had a sefer of Nevi'im, let's say, and there was something wrong. There was a dalas instead of a reish. So he edited it. He just not like the tagish dalas. He took the protrusion of the dalas, v'asei reish, and he formed it into the reish. In this case, he merely edited one letter, but since by doing so he completed the sefer, he validated the entire sefer. It's considered to be a masa chashav, as we mentioned earlier. It's considered to be a masa ksiva of significance, and he's chayiv. Continues the Gemara. Tana, we learned in the Brisa, if a person wanted to write one letter, Nateris explains, he actually intended on writing two letters. And he wasn't even particular regarding the specific character he's going to write. Any two letters would suffice. So he proceeded to write those two letters, and he began with a ches. He began with the intention to write this one letter, the ches, and he left out the roof, the top of the ches, and it resulted in two zayins being written. And it resulted in two letters. Chayav. Says the Gemara, Vatan Pater. Haven't we learned in our Mishnah? Then in this case, he'd be Pater. Like Kashi says, the Gemara, it's not difficult. Depends. If he needs these letters for instance, for the Sefer Torah, which requires strokes to be formed on top of the zayins, we need one on the right, one to the left, one up the middle. So in this case, he would be Pater because he hadn't yet fixed those strokes. The Mishnah is speaking about where it needs those strokes. But the Brisa, which says chayiv, is speaking about he's writing ordinary letters which don't require those strokes. He's not writing, for instance, the Sefer Torah. So they don't need those strokes, and therefore he's chayiv because he completed two letters, two zayins, side by side. Okay, time for a brief review of today's daf. We began the Gemara describing the nes that happened in the luchos with the mem and the samach were positioned by a nes because the inner portion was unsupported. So they were oimed through a nes. The Gemara told us that the Nevi'im reintroduced those manaspach, those double letters to Klal Yisrael. We had the expounding on the meaning of the aleph base, and the Mishnah came to tell us the various halachos of hakosev. If one writes two letters kedarka in ordinary manner of writing, he writes those two letters behelam echad using any substance which has the ability to be roshim, to last and to endure. If he writes those letters which are nikrin zeh, they can be read with each other, so even on two walls, but they can be read, they're close enough, they can be read with each other. Even if they're both in different cities, but they can be brought together and read with each other, he's chayiv. If a person writes on his flesh, he's chayiv. What about scraping, engraving? We have a machlokes. If he writes one letter next to a pre-existing letter, we have machlokes. If that last letter is completing the entire sefer, according to Rav Ashi, all agree in this case he's chayiv, it has significance. If he writes a ksav on top of another ksav, we have a machlokes. If he writes one letter with an apostrophe, we have machlokes, whether it's considered to be a ksiva or not.